If you've ever driven down I-4 into Orlando, you've probably passed by what is now the tallest building between Orlando and Jacksonville. In fact, if you've driven that route a lot over the years, you may have also noticed the sheer lack of progress made on this tower, one that has officially been under construction since 2001. What's up guys, my name is Jake, and in this 99th episode of Abandoned, let's take a look at the Majesty Building, a tower which has been in a constant state of construction, and one which for nearly 25 years has essentially sat abandoned. This episode of Abandoned is sponsored by Incogni. Use code BRIGHTSUN at the link below to get 60% off annual plans. The story begins with a man named Claude Bowers. He was the president and CEO of a Christian TV and radio station enterprise, Super Channel 55 and WACX. Since its start in the 1980s, the nonprofit had grown in popularity, and thanks to America's forgiving tax-exempt status, the company brought in a good amount of revenue, mainly off of donations. In fact, millions would be donated by their many loyal followers all across Central Florida. But this localized reach wasn't enough. Bowers had even greater aspirations for his growing organization. He wanted to spread the word of God even further, across the state, the country, and even the world. He wanted to take a page out of the other successful American televangelist books and build a new headquarters outfitted with production studios that would allow his network to expand much further.
And boy, this is big. That inner voice spoke to me and said, "What would you build if money was no object?" And I said, "I'd go as high as I could go, as wide as I could go, as deep as I could go. And what we didn't need for television, we'd lease out and create an endowment." So that inner voice said, "We'll do it." And I said, "I don't have the money." He said, "I'll show you how to get it." And so it's an amazing building, a 1,000-car parking garage.
Bowers had proposed these plans in 1998, with his network purchasing a plot of land in Altamont Springs, Florida, a city just outside of Orlando. The 4.3-acre parcel of land they purchased was prime for high visibility, situated right along Interstate 4 with direct access to East Central Parkway. The new headquarters for them was planned to be enormous, a 20-story tower that would give them all the square footage they could ever possibly want. Ultimately, by 1999, this concept was shortened to 18 floors, equating to around 300,000 square feet. Still a ton of space. The final design of the tower was also finalized, envisioning a sleek glass tower that curves towards the top. Within, the headquarters would feature various floor plates of office space, a large ground floor rotunda outfitted with retail, and to top it all off, a large penthouse members-only club at the top called the Crown Room, a place for those who have donated more than $2,000 to hang out. Along with a sizable observation patio and 2 floors of underground parking, this was certainly an ambitious project, one that was now called the Majesty Building. Bowers claimed that the project would only cost around $40 million, and he was hoping to have it open by New Year's Eve 2000. Well, 2000 came and went with no work underway. See, unlike how most large buildings are constructed, Bowers had promised that no debt would be taken out to fund the tower. Instead, everything would be paid off in cash. Despite Bowers and his family paying themselves $500,000 in 1999, he would claim that there was still not enough cash to start the project. Finally though, in late 2001, groundbreaking would start. The new opening was pushed back to March 2003, though Super Channel's finance project manager stated that the project was still on track. Through this time, the tower would ascend very slowly. By late 2002, construction was progressing at a snail's pace, most days seeming like the site was completely abandoned. For months, the skeleton of the unfinished tower sat vacant, with very little work being done. By this point, the tower got as high as 14 stories. And as passersby and locals began complaining of the unsightly presence along I-4, Bowers gave little reassurance. In early 2003, he stated that the organization was, quote, "paying as we go," and stated that, quote, "there is no absolute schedule. Our target date would be for May 2004. Bowers would plead with his audience to continue donating, hosting big fundraising telethons, showing on live TV the costly glass panels that had to be manufactured out of Ohio. The 14-story concrete skeleton by this point had become known as the I-4 Eyesore, and once again, that new Target opening date would come and go, all with little work being done. Finally, to help with the outward aesthetics, Majesty Building finally got a skin in late 2004, as the glass cladding was finally being fixed on. The building was also now fully topped out, though there was clearly a lot more to do. Bowers continued to produce telethons, asking pledgers to help finish the tower, which he said would cost another $7 million to see it through to completion. By 2006, crews began excavating the general area for the parking garage, though once again, money would apparently dry up, and the site was left dormant. The ground floor concrete bones were left to the humid Central Florida weather, and had begun to turn gray. But Bowers was still very hopeful, claiming that so long as enough pledges came in from the TV viewers, they could finish the tower in late 2007. Unsurprisingly, that date would also come and go with little progress made. The structure would continue to sit vacant and abandoned, just an 18-story concrete skeleton with a glass curtain wall draped around it. Anyone who could get eyes on the bare podium below would clearly see that. The only work which had been done was critical maintenance every 6 months or so, a way for them to stay up to code and avoid breaking city ordinances. But once again, Bowers publicly claimed to the Orlando Sentinel that the tower would be ready for tenants by October 2012. Sure. In a West 2 News broadcast in 2013, Bowers admitted that donations had slowed down during the 2008 recession, and as a result, construction also had substantially slowed down. He claimed that another $10 to $14 million would be needed to finish the parking garage and the interiors, though his proposed finishing date of 2015 would be another false promise. But things actually seemed like they would be turning around shortly after. Super Channel was about to get an enormous influx of cash. For around $20 million, they would sell their highly sought-after radio channel frequency to the FCC. That frequency would be used for 5G bandwidths, while their station would switch to a lower frequency. Regardless, they now had a ton of cash, tax-free cash. Plus, after they would sell some more land to the state for the I-4 expansion, they were now swimming in dough. This was seemingly more than enough money to finally finish the structure. Through 2018, the parking garage would go vertical and see most of the remaining glass installed, though not all. As power was finally connected and lights were turned on inside the tower for the first time, there was now seemingly light at the end of this long, meandering tunnel. Bowers once again made claims that they were shooting for an opening in the next 8 to 12 months. However, it was also being reported around this time that despite the massive influx of cash at the tax-free network, Bowers was still saying it was not enough for them to move in.
Well, we're paying as we go. We have no debt. And we have enough, we probably don't have enough quite yet to move in.
A year later, in 2019, he told the Orlando Sentinel, when asked when it would be completed, that, quote, whatever time is best to bring it online, and then went on to say that right now is, quote, not the time. Despite the building being in pretty good condition for all things considered, weathering storms and sitting idle for so long, it was effectively abandoned and unoccupied for years. But even so, they technically weren't breaking any laws or even violating any city codes, despite how prominent it was. Since Super Channel was still performing work, no matter how small, the structure couldn't be considered legally abandoned. A few more glass panels would be put on through the early 2020s, as well as repairing some broken ones, though everything generally remained pretty much the same. All of this actually leads us up to today. Incredibly, at the time of producing this episode, the Majesty Building has still not been completed, nor does it have any concrete plans for the future. A much older Claude Bowers in June 2025 claimed that they are now working to file for permits to develop and occupy the first floor of the structure soon. But of course, the actual timeline of that is certainly fair to put into question. It's no secret that Super Channel and WACX has seen a tremendous fall from grace with donations. It was their primary financial lifeline, and it's been drying up for a while. In fact, their overall income has dropped precipitously since the mid-2000s. And as time has gone on, the massive headquarters and sky-high ambitions they once had now might not even make sense for a dwindling network. Today, the building remains as a shell of a tower, though one in honestly pretty decent condition. It's a tower that has never been occupied, and one that was designed all the way back in 1999, with construction starting as early as 2001. That means this tower has been under construction for nearly 25 years. Much of that time only seeing snail-paced construction, ultimately getting them to an aesthetically complete-looking tower, just one with nothing inside of it. Anyone who has lived in the area or driven into Orlando over the years, like myself, has seen this project slowly take shape. But with no completion date in sight, it has just become a local joke, a tower mocked for its lack of progress or purpose. But now we're in a time where commercial real estate is in decline, and demand has eased over the years. Even if the network doesn't occupy a large portion of the tower, finding tenants to lease hundreds of thousands of square feet of office space outside of Orlando might be a tall order. Other than making good on his own promises, there really isn't any reason why the network should finish the project. It's certainly not in their own financial interest to do so. In fact, if they did occupy as intended, it would cost them an enormous amount just to operate. On top of the expenses of running a large office tower, since most of the structure wouldn't be used for the Christian network, it's possible that the portions that are used for general commercial would be applicable to regular property tax. When asked by the Orlando Business Journal if they should just sell the building, Bowers simply refused, claiming that it would not be fair to those who donated money and had faith in the project. And it's certainly not like they've given up on their own faith. Majesty Building is essentially baked into the very brand of Super Channel. It's front and center on their website. The Crown Room concept art is shown in the background of some of their broadcasts, and they still very happily let you donate. But truly, I'm not sure if I see a long-term future for the building as it was originally pitched. And until large tangible work is actually done to occupy the structure, the Majesty Building, for many people, will understandably continue to be the poster child for a lot of different things. A long-running joke, yes, and maybe even an annoying eyesore for locals, but it's also a testament to how slow large-scale developments can be when it's based solely on cash coming in from an unreliable source. Perhaps it's even a monument of overambition, fueled by broken promises from a man who is still holding out on faith that it will one day be completed. Will that ever actually happen? Well, only time will tell. But I think it's apparent that most people have given up faith. No matter how much you try and avoid it, just spending time online puts your data at risk. I know my data has been compromised a few times through high-profile data breaches that seem to happen all the time. Oftentimes, this data is collected and sold by malicious brokers that you have the right to remove from the internet. Of course, spending the time to actually do this would take hundreds of hours, which is why I'm excited that Incogni is sponsoring this video. Incogni makes the process of submitting requests and having your data removed from the internet extremely simple. And it's easy to do. You just sign up, grant them permission to remove data on your behalf, and make your digital footprint a lot more safe and secure. Personally, they've completed over 178 data requests on my behalf, saving me over 133 hours if I were to manually do it all myself. They've also just introduced a new custom removal feature. That means if you come across a website that is containing your private data, you can send that to Incogni and one of their agents will take care of it for you. So to take back your personal data with Incogni, you can use code BRIGHTSUN at incogni.com/brightsun and get 60% off annual plans. Anyway guys, my name is Jake, and thank you very much for watching.